Hi. Good evening. Assalamualaikum sa lahat ng tao. I think it's an observation lang sa pinaka-last ng presenter. You mentioned that your hope is for the youth.
Yeah.
My take on it is most kasi in Maguindanao, in the area that I'm from, is galing din sa political clans yung youth nila. So mukhang wala rin. So I think pareho lang din yung mangyayari kasi yung mga ninuno nila doon din galing. So I'm not don't get me wrong, I'm hopeful, but for Maguindanao I'm kind of not hopeful for the youth. Tingin ko yun lang muna.
Ang tubag nako is that if you think about Abdul Khair Alonso, who joined the MNLF 75.
Oh,
75.
yeah. Yes.
Alonso, it was a traditional clan, diba? But there are children in that clan who actually, become more radical, more militant, diba? Even they were trying to, wasn't there a Matalam or an Ampatuan who was arrested in Malaysia for being suspected of collecting guns and for the Maotis? Think of in this, I'm more optimistic. You think about, John Kennedy. John Kennedy, everybody loves John Kennedy, but his father and his grandfather were running illegal whiskey in Boston. Criminal. So there is always a good egg there. If you think about an old family like the Rasuls, I mean, the Rasul is, not doing, not and her mother, not running the traditional type of politics. And even if you listen to Khalid Dimaporo sometimes, he talks like an NGO activist. The one time I interviewed him, he mentions stakeholders. Like who else mentions stakeholders? Diba? Mga NGO activists and CSO. Maybe it's possible to convince some of this political, the family might, in general, be clannish, but there is almost always a bad egg, quote unquote, from the civil society perspective. Yeah, that's why Gloria said she's depressed. No, don't be depressed. I think there is hope in it. A lot of people who started. A lot of people who became militants, radicals, actually came from the other side, from the oligarchy class. Think of, even Jose Maria Sison admits that his family was a landlord class. Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels was industrialist. So there is hope, I think, Sarah. It's just a matter of trying to talk to them and saying, educating the right kids.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, I think of the Atenistas who tried to bomb Marcos in 78. They were nice people. They went to Ateneo de Manila, studied under the Jesuits, and actually planned to try to urban bombing to destroy Doris Bafri to destroy the Marcos dictatorship. So, basig na Sarah.
I know some, which is good. So, yun lang po. Thank you so much for hearing me. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Sarah, for your reflection and your reaction. There's a question in the chat box here. There's this one's from Gail. History is so important. Sad that when people vote, they only seem to think of the present circus. I think that's a comment from Gail. We also have from Ma'am Hermelina Lacarte. Just want to ask about the study which says political violence is going down through the years. May we know what were the basis of that study? Kasi baka di na-include ang mga killings of ordinary village officials even in the months leading to elections. Noted especially sa 2018 and 2019, marami po, pati mga mayors, vice mayors, kahit ngayon, nagsisimula na.
I think aggregate yung statistics, ma'am. It's statistics. We aggregate. If a national aggregate, it's actually going down. I mean, that's an interesting question actually. If you disaggregate the killings and see who at the barangay level were killed, mayor, we don't have that statistics yet nationwide. And which is, I think, the one reason why the Mindanao journalists can, develop a database on this, who are being killed down to the presinto level on the basis of elections. And I think tama si Ma'am Lacorta na I think I basis that there is again a resurgence, but from when to where we don't know. I can share the dissertation of Sol with people who are interested. Not the dissertation, the chapters on Mindanao.
All
Okay.
right.
Si Mon, si Carol.
All right. Gail, you want to ask something to Mon?
Oh yeah, oo. His talk kanina highlighted personality politics coming to fore, though it has never been done, no, and clan politics also. So I was wondering about what is the future and what is the relevance of political parties? Sir Mon?
Well, political parties are names. At this time, we don't really real political parties in the Philippines. I went to Europe, I went to the US, and basically observed how parties operate. They don't operate like political parties here in the Philippines. We have the names, yes. We have politicians, but it's basically, in many cases, it's clan politics or maybe group of people who are barkada or have other relations than being strictly political based associations such as a political party. We haven't yet matured to that point at this time.
Thank you, Sir Mon. There's a comment, there's a question from Julie Alipala of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Julie has been expressing her anxiety and depression in the chat box a while ago. This perhaps may be answered from our three by our three panelists. May nagbago ba sa behavior ng young voters? What about in 2016 and 2019? Sir Mon, perhaps you can give an answer to the question.
Well, I think the answer to that is a qualified yes. The COMELEC today is presenting a big percentage, that's around 40%, they said, of young voters. But answering that from another perspective, we have problems, real problems, pandemic and pandemia and the economic crisis are real problems, which even if there's no election, are actually experienced by all. I don't think there's anybody who can get away from that. That kind of a situation basically brings forth a recognition that an election can be a positive part of the positive solution to that problem. So what is the voters looking at the election? That leaders who win are in a position to really answer these two crises that we have now. That's an assumption, but it's an assumption that can be easily understood because the problems are real. And I'm assuming that voters will be impacted by the realization that if they vote into office the wrong politicians or the wrong leaders, you may not have a problem. You would have a crisis. That's why there are things that go beyond simple campaigning. People would really be look the possibilities. Of course, there are candidates who will present themselves as having solutions, but I don't think it would match the anxiety or the requirements that need. I'm foreseeing that despite all the campaigns, all the propaganda out there, people at the end of the day would be look at themselves and see who is capable in answering the problems. So this is not the normal election.
Thank you, Sir Mon. There's a question from Inter News from Gian Libot. The question is addressed to Sir Jojo. On the Bisaya block, how much of a role does language and kinship play in the pool of votes? Does it mean Pacquiao's claim that Bisayas will vote for their own would hold water? And how much does Sarah's pool bring potentially to a Marcos campaign that has historically not done well in Mindanao?
Well, Marcos won in 69. Salamat. Thank you, Jan. Couple of things. One, the Visayan bloc, I think, if you listen to Duterte, I'm trying to figure out why is it that the people who study Duterte in Manila and elsewhere forgot the fact that he speaks Visayan. So it has something, I think, to do with the way he's able to talk. And I actually experimented with this political science association sa Cebu. And I opened up with the speech ni Duterte about, journalists having vaginitis. But saying it in Bisaya, all the Visayas and the most Moros started laughing. The Manileños did not. So that was the interesting thing. Because if you notice, this is my theory that I try to will pursue further. Professor Nemenzo of the University of the Philippines said, if you want to look for the source of a national language, it's Davao Tagalog. And so it's the ability of people like him to switch back and forth. Using Davao Tagalog as a base to switch Bisaya. If he's in Mindanao, he speaks right now. Or if he's in Osamis, he speaks like he's from Osamis. And then he goes to Manila and speaks Tagalog with a weird accent. That's a very important thing, I think. And that's probably one reason also why Manny Pacquiao is quite popular. Diba? It's not just because he's the Pambanjang Kamao, but because the way he speaks. Diba? That's one important factor. But Pacquiao will not win because Visayas, like any other community, even voters who will sell their votes are very discerning. Remember when he lost the mayorship sa Jensan? Remember anong year? Anong year to bad, Hadji?
That's 2000. 2000.
What's the question?
2007.
So when did Manny Pacquiao lose in the elections in Jensan? He ran for mayor, didn't he? He lost.
In mid-2000.
Mid-2000. The reason why he lost was what? What is the rumor? The rumor was he paid everybody 500 pesos.
Yes.
And he lost. And so he goes to the voters and say, mga walang hiya mo, why did you not lose for me? And the answer of the voters are what? Boxer ka lang sir eh. Boxer naman ka lang sir. You're nothing, So he might be money. Filipinos may sell their vote, may be more opportunistic, but at a certain point they'll say, boxer, hindi pwede. Pwede mag-presidente na dong. Dawato na ko imong kwarta, pero dili ko botar nimo, di ba? That's the one thing, Gian. The other interesting thing actually, Gian, you might want to consider is in 46, there were over 1 million people who moved from Central Visayas to Mindanao. Now, in frontier theory, study of frontiers, mga guba na sila, they dissipate, di ba? Because they own now 1 hectare lands and the sense of community disappears. Pero a couple of sociologists in 1970 studied the communities when they moved. And what they found out is they moved from Cebu and they moved to Davao, the same barrio kept together, and the new people coming from the same barrio were welcome in Cebu barrio, were welcome in that new home in Mindanao. But I think Duterte said something about, "Hoy kamong mga taga Danao, mga kawatan man mo og kuan diha sa Santa Cruz, di ba? Davao del Sur, like, hey, Danao, people from Danao, Davao del Sur, they never broke up. That community persisted, just basically transformed themselves, and they also help sustain and support themselves. Because if you follow Mindanao Times, and before on dissertation, when I was doing research on Mindanao Times before martial law, there was always the Ilonggo block, the Cebuano block, the Mindanao block, the Cebuano block. So there was all these blocks based on where they lived. And so Visayans also, coming Visayan block is a very, very interesting thing because it can work to your advantage. Okay, it can actually, at the village level, vote as one community. Now, will Sarah bring potential? I don't know. Everybody calls her Inday Sara, but does she have the appeal? Does she have the appeal of her father? We don't know. I don't know. I haven't done. Wala pa ko kaulis Mindanao to make some definite thing, as Sherlock Holmes would say, not enough data though. So maybe after COVID and we'll do field work, then we will know.
Okay, thank you, Sir Jojo, for answering the question of Gian. There is another question, this time from the former National Youth Commissioner, Steve Arquiza. How will social media influence 2022 elections? Perhaps Ka can answer this.
Around of PCIJ, because PCIJ did a story on mainstream media recently, a few days ago, but it still has to finish do its report on social media. Oh, definitely, considering that it has been proven in 2016 and 2019 elections. So kaya nga sinasabi nila na may dagdag na nga yung 2Gs, di ba? Yung gigabytes is the 4th and GCash is the 5th. So, and social media is not so easy to monitor, although the experts would be able to know what to do, no? But for citizens, I think we need trainings to be able to discern ano itong nangyayaring movements sa social media. But may I also add that there are so many fact-checking groups already working on this social media platforms also. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat, there's also a follow-up question from Gail. What do you see about the power of GCash?
Yan, hindi ko alam kung paano i-monitor yan eh. But I think some people are already studying how to monitor these transactions, especially since pandemic time. So, and we as reporters, we also really need to study the new resolutions coming out on the kind of campaigning allowed. May bagong COMELEC resolution on that. So maraming dapat pag-aralan actually as reporters. And isa doon is we should be able to ask experts on how to monitor GCash and all this social media thing. Okay.
There's a question from Julie. This is perhaps for Sir Mon. Ano play ng digitalization for these elections? Past elections, many candidates claimed they were cheated by machines and SD cards. So you're from IPER. I helped out on the ground when we did the Bantay election a few years back. Perhaps you can answer this question from Julie.
Well, the answer is simple. You cannot cheat the machine. They've tried in all the automated elections before, but there are so many safeguards that they haven't mastered. For example, the question is, can you actually affect the machine counting? The problem is not simply technical. If you don't know how the system works, how the software and the hardware looks like, then you would have a problem. So far, there is no data that can say that the machine are easy to make. To I have looked at the machines actually, even when I was in Washington, D.C., and have experts explain how the machine works and all. If the U.S. elections are not affected, they're using machines already, basically the same type of machines that we are using here. I don't think it would have a problem. We would have the problem in cheating electronically or otherwise.
Hadj.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ah.
maybe we can ask Julie Alipala because she said hindi daw uso sa Tawi-Tawi and other areas yung GCash. Jules?
No, I was just sharing pinasa sa amin through Messenger, through emails, yung mga pictures ng how yung bilihan ng botos sa Tawi-Tawi. Actually, natatawa nga ako kasi binabalot lang nila sa newspaper. Hindi ko alam kung Inquirer newspaper ba yun, but may mga Chinese newspaper, binabalot lang nila ito, and then pinakita, binuksan, tapos yung sa mga political allies like barangay officials, makakapal yung kanilang balot. I guess hindi kasi uso yung GCash doon kasi mahina yung internet connectivity doon. So siguro yung transmittal ng pera, siguro hindi pa kaya. And sa Buanga City, yung issue na before the nagka-pandemic, yung palitan ng mga ice cream containers na may mga pera. May nagpakita lang naman ng mga pictures pero ayaw magpa-quote. And ayun, disturbing siya kasi I don't know, sa iba siguro GCash, pero may accountability pa rin yung GCash. I don't know how to trace it, pero siguro may parang to trace it through GCash. Pero yung the old traditional way kasi wala kang masisilip na wala kang masisilip na accountability doon kasi hindi mo naman alam paano unless kunan mo ng litrato. So these are in Tawi-Tawi and Zamboanga City. So I don't know in some other areas, malakas naman yung connectivity namin and so far wala pa naman nagpadala ng GCash sa akin. Naghihintay pa ako. Wala lang ako GCash.
There's an interesting point. There's an interesting point.
Sorry, that's the sharing that
Yeah. There's an interesting point by Ryan Rosauro, no? That automated machines have helped led to the decline in violence. So this is in reply to the question of Julie kanina. So perhaps we can have the last two questions and one comment before we'll wrap up today's webinar. No? We have other questions. You may also raise your hand, no, using
Hadji,
the
si Sarah has another comment on in relation to GCash.
in relation to GCash.
Hindi daw GCash doon sa Maguindanao.
In Maguindanao, ayun, sa 2019 vote buying in Zamboanga Peninsula used Kwarta Padala outlets, no? Before, no, now it's GCash. No, in 2019 it's Kwarta Padala. So how it can be exact accountability with regards to these digital money transfer is something to really be look into by policymakers and also of course of our journalists, no? Siguro we can, yeah.
I have a question. I have a
Yes,
question to ask the
John.
group. I have a question to ask the group here. Is that if an imam issues a fatwa against vote buying, or a fatwa that says, yes, get the money, but vote for the person who it's your consent. And if the parish priest says, hala, dawatang kwarta, but vote for somebody else, it's not a sin, will that affect the way people look at vote buying? That's my first question. Second question is, I think when it comes to, as a comment, I think when we discuss about social media, don't ask us people above 60. It should be people in their 20s and 18s who can talk about this, because we're old. We don't know anything about these things. I think the next, yung mga anak ni Julie Alipala na lang, pamangkin ni Carol, can take care of these things. We know nothing about this thing, but they can help figure it out. But to my first question, what would happen, Sarah?
Yeah.
Back to you, Sarah. Matalam?
Yes, Sarah Matalam is still around.
Yeah. So if an imam issues, this seems to have happened in my research sa USAID. I was interviewing an imam sa Davao City, and he was really interesting. He said, well, I issued an fatwa in favor of birth control. I'm like, huh? And it worked in his village now. People did accepted, okay, we can use pills and condoms. If that happens, the entire bishop and ulama conference issues a call. That's still accept the money, it's your money, and vote for somebody else. Will people follow?
Comment on the imam. Comment po ako dun sa imam.
If the imam says it, Sarah, what happens?
I think, in my opinion lang I'm not sure what the imam would do, but in my opinion, it's still a sin kasi you don't exactly know where the source of the money being given to you came from. So, kasalanan pa rin yun. So better wag na lang tanggapin.
What if the imam says that's government money, that's your tax, actually they're stealing, and then it's not a sin anymore, di ba? I'm sorry. I'm just curious.
No, it's actually a legitimate question, and it's actually happening. From personal experience, yes, it is happening. Imams actually go around and tell people, sige, tanggapin nyo na lang. Like, balance siya eh. So, kahit binigay sa'yo, pero ginamit mo naman in a good way, like pinakain mo sa mga anak mo, or bought food and fed you for a week.
People believe, and people do it.
Yes, they do.
There you go. That's the hope. That's the hope. Yung mga na-depressed, there's a hope.
Actually,
for the priests and the imams.
Yeah. They actually do.
Yes. Sige. Thank you very much. No, there's a comment here from Hash. Ang sabi niya, in Lanao del Sur, harap-harapan na. So there's no GCash. You don't need GCash there. But in Lanao del Sur, it's harap-harapan na. In Sibugay, pala, sinako ang kinarton ng vote buying. So these are really depressing realities, no? Tama nga naman, there are also some reasons to be worried about Julie, no? Sige. Siguro we can have our last 2 questions. Ayan, here's from Joe's. Hi po, good evening. I want to ask lang po regarding dun sa cheating sa machines. Sermon mentioned that other people haven't figured out how to cheat the machines. However, what if the manufacturers themselves to be part of it?
Well, they would certainly lose the business because the major requirement there, and this is a subject, of course, to government regulation. They have to demonstrate the machine, and they're not the ones actually handling the machine. They may be part of the process, like in the COMELEC processes, but they cannot by themselves, decide the vote. the first place, they don't have access to the vote themselves. The machine may have the record, but it's not going to them. And they could not change it that easily. In fact, that's the problem.
So there's a last comment from Ryan Rosauro. In 2007, there was a haram to halal voter education campaign in Lanao del Sur by CSOs in a bid to end vote buying, but not much impact because of the huge amounts offered per vote. And there's also the last comment from Jojo. In that case, not haram to halal, siguro. The threat of hell to the Catholics to excommunication. So with that, we close.
One more point. If CBCP excommunicates Bongbong Marcos for stealing from the Filipino people, will Mindanaoans still vote?